Hello, hello, and welcome everyone. I'm Josh Farrell, wine director for Wine Express, and this is the fourth in our series of virtual wine tastings. I'm here at home in my dining room, and you're all joining me from your homes over Zoom. Isn't technology wonderful? Um, we're joined today by some of the Wine Express team as well. Erica Strum is here, and Marshall Tilton, and Gino Kretko, and a few of our other teammates are here joining us and here to welcome you. Today we're very, very excited and very lucky to be joined by the Director of Winemaking for the Prisoner Wine Company, Chrissy Whitman. Chrissy has an extensive background in winemaking, grape growing, biology, agriculture, science, all kinds of things. And she brings all this wealth of experience to her position, creating the great wines of the Prisoner Wine Company. So we're going to compare two of the wines that are the favorites of our Wine Express customers today. Of course, the Prisoner, but their newest red blend that's really just taken off like crazy is the Unshackled Red Blend. And we're going to compare and contrast. We're going to talk about the differences between the wines and the grapes and everything involved in making the wines. And so let's bring in Chrissy. Chrissy, how are you?
I'm good, Josh. Thank you.
Good. Nice to see you. I know you're so busy. You got so many things on your plate, and especially this time of year. Tell me where you're at now. Are you harvesting? Are you waiting to harvest? You got grapes in? What's going on?
So there is quite a bit going on. We started harvest back in August with Sauvignon Blanc, as we have a new product coming online. So that was really exciting. Sauvignon Blanc from Napa Valley, as well as Sauvignon Blanc from Alexander Valley. So we started with that, and things got pretty fast and furious just with all of the heat.
Sure,
And then I think it got a bit too hot when you start hitting 110. Certain beings just kind of cease. So the grapes, they kind of put the brakes on, and we actually saw the brakes go backwards a bit. And now we're really starting to see things get ripe. Varieties that Napa Valley Cab that you normally wouldn't see until October are reaching ripeness. And then we're also pulling in Carneros Chardonnay.
Okay.
So we've got, kind of the kitchen sink going on with
Sure.
Chardonnay.
You work with a lot of late ripening varietals, particularly for these wines, Cabernet, Zinfandel, Petit Syrah, Syrah. So I guess your harvest season must really just stretch out, right?
Yeah, it could be pretty long. Some of the Zinfandels that come from the Sierra foothills and Lodi, which are, kind of southeast of Napa, especially if they're dry farm, they tend to ripen a little bit sooner. So we typically start seeing Zin from those vineyards coming in the beginning of September, and then our last harvested cab could roll into the first week of November. So it tends to be a pretty drawn out season.
Right. So I remember you mentioning something about Zin and Zin ripening, which is very interesting. Apparently it can ripen very, very unevenly. And so it's hard to know exactly when to pull the trigger, right?
Yeah, Zin's a tough variety. It's for many years prior to this position, I made Pinot Noir, and I was told at that time that was really difficult wine to make. I'm kind of finding that to be a cakewalk in comparison to Zin.
Really?
Because one thing too is that the Pinot ferments. It loves to ferment, so it ferments hot and quick. And so unlike Zin, which especially if you're picking it with a bit of shrivel for style, it can really linger on in the fermentation just with the sugar that hasn't been released in the berries. But yeah, I do have a picture of the different types of berries that are found on the same cluster, which makes it difficult to make a picking decision. So
Right.
you almost don't pick really so much on flavor, but it's on look and feel.
Right. So you can have a single cluster of grapes with a ripe berry, overripe berries, and then underripe berries, right? All in one cluster.
Right. Yeah, for sure. You've got hard raisins, soft raisins, dimpled berries, plump berries, green berries, you name it.
That's a winemaking challenge, I'd say.
It is. We have some pretty good destemming equipment that'll remove, any of the green berries from the cluster. And typically, if there's any like kind of raisins on there, they stick to the rachis and don't come off. So we have pretty good selective equipment.
Okay. But then you lower your overall yield then quite a bit, right? If you're getting rid of those.
You know what? Those berries don't have that much yield anyway.
All right. So you worked as winemaker in the Central Coast, right, for Wild Horse.
Yes.
And as you say, you worked with Pinot Noir, with Chardonnay, much different than coming up to Napa Valley and working with Cab and Petit Syrah. How was that experience? How did that translate for you?
Yeah, I think, in Paso Robles area, with winemaking there is a lot of experimentation that goes on there. It's not, it's not so traditional as Napa Valley. And, it's kind of like there's no rules and whatever variety goes into a blend goes into a blend. I mean, there's people who are brands that just specialize in blends.
Okay.
So this definitely much more widely accepted on the Central Coast than it is in Napa Valley, because Napa is entrenched in tradition. So, being part of the Prisoner and Napa, I guess I would say it kind of spices things up a bit. Our winemaking techniques are fairly traditional. Our picking is probably less traditional. But, we have a pretty minimalist approach when we're making the wine, that we don't add anything that's unnecessary to make the grapes perform. We just get good grapes, so that's our philosophy.
That's important. But it sounds like you were used to blends. Blends weren't something that was sort of foreign or.
Yeah, and anybody who knows Wild Horse,
your area.
If you've been to Wild Horse in their tasting room, especially the early days, at one time they were selling like 18 different bottles of wine with different varieties, whether it was Modelo, Malvasia Bianca, Syrah, Malbec, Merlot. So it is not a foreign concept to me.
Right. Well, and just to focus on the two wines we're talking about today, these wines are they're such unique blends, and it just seems like they just have to be put together in a way that's I don't know. I mean, it's almost like a magic potion. You put in a dash of this and a splash of that and a little bit of this, and poof, you have something that's remarkably delicious to drink, right?
Yeah, and it's not like a like poof, oh my God, it's when I go poof,
There's a
oh my
method
God,
to it?
it's like poof, it's the Prisoner. Like I remember the first time that I was blending Prisoner, and the Prisoner, making the Prisoner is blending it up is really difficult because we have a lot of lots. We try to keep different vineyards and stuff as separate as we can until we absolutely know where they're going to go. And we would make, when we go through and blend and we pick out Zin, Syrah, and Petite Syrah, you know, we look at the Prisoner red blend and Saldo kind of as the two pools for those two varieties. So we'll say, is this Prisoner style or is it Saldo style? And Prisoner, soft, round, approachable, dark fruit, and Saldo's got a little bit more tannin and acidity and spice to it. So once we get all of the Zin, Syrah, Petite Syrah, for the Prisoner, we'll make little blends, bench blends of each variety. So of Zin, Syrah, Petite Syrah, and then we'll put it together in the right proportion. And it's just amazing when you taste it. You're like, oh my God, that's Prisoner. It's the weirdest thing. And then we'll do the same, like with some of the Bordeaux's. We'll take out the reserves, and then we'll put together the Bordeaux's that are going to go into Prisoner. And then we'll put the Bordeaux's and then the Zin, Syrah, and Petite Syrah together, and it's like, oh yeah, wow, it's pretty
And
crazy.
something happens.
Yeah.
So I think we should go ahead and try one of these wines, don't you?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So here I've got the 2018 Unshackled Red. A wine that's really taken our Wine Express by storm. We struggled to keep it in stock. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that it is made by Prisoner Wine Company, but also it's a really good wine. I mean, I was stunned when I tasted this. It just showed so much depth, so much richness, and at such a great price. So how did you come about to put this together?
Yeah.
I mean, did you decide that you needed a Prisoner Junior, so to speak, or was there another idea?
You know, we wanted to be able to offer, you know, more people, you know, a product from the Prisoner Wine Company. And we thought that by kind of making a different blend, a red blend, and then the Cab and the Rosé, we at a lower price point, we would be able to, you know, reach out to those who maybe normally, you know, buying a Prisoner red blend, you know, for an everyday wine is just not realistic, I think, for most people. So this was an opportunity to offer something at, you know, half the price pretty much, you know, to kind of show people what the Prisoner is all about, you know.
Sure.
With this red blend, I mean, it kind of seemed natural to do, you know, a red blend because that's the Prisoner's flagship.
Yeah.
But what we didn't want to do is recreate the Prisoner. You know, that's kind of not what it's about. It's in the same vein, the approachability and the softness, but you know, regionally it's quite different.
Yeah.
And the fruit is different. The fruit is it's more fruit forward,
Definitely
more red
fruit
fruit,
forward.
less
Wonderful cherry notes in this.
Yeah, and
There's a little spiciness there too, a little hints of licorice. But it's sort of medium bodied, very soft.
yeah, and there's you know, a good proportion of Central Coast fruit in there. So Southern Monterey County, Paso Robles, a little bit of Santa Barbara County, as well as some North Coast like Lake County Cab. It's
Lake County Cab, okay.
actually there's no Lake County Cab in that. I was thinking about the Unshackled Cab, but
Okay.
sorry,
All right.
it's mostly you know, some Sonoma.
I don't get a lot of cab quality.
No, there isn't any Cab in there. So
I noticed from the notes that there's some Grenache in here.
yes.
So where's that from?
So the Grenache is from a Monterey area.
Okay.
And so that, you know, blend wise, you know, has some similarities to the Prisoner and Zin, Syrah, Petite Syrah. Instead of like Cab and Merlot in there, it's got Malbec and Grenache.
Oh, okay,
So
sure.
the Grenache really heightens the fruit and kind of makes it stand out, kind of a fresh fruit.
Right.
So that's, kind of one of the differences,
Kind of
with
lifts
the
it up a
Prisoner
little
Red
bit.
blend, which is a bit more serious and dark, and
Sure.
deep. So
Yeah.
Sure. Well, there's dark fruit in here, no doubt about it.
yeah.
Dark plums. Mm.
Is it, Chrissy, it must be, I imagine, fun, interesting to be able to source from so many different regions, being a California, right, appellation, not stuck to Napa or Sonoma, right? You can, kind of branch out and find some really great juice and great grapes, right, from throughout California.
Yeah, I'm pretty lucky to be able to work with the different growing regions within the state, because there's so many good ones that don't get the credit that they deserve, because it gets, overshadowed by, by Napa, right? Napa
Yeah.
and Sonoma. So
So
it's nice to be able to pick these gems out of the different appellations and put them into the bottle of wine.
sounds to me like you've been unshackled. You
Oh,
have
yeah.
to- you
I've been
can
unshackled for some time.
beyond, and it's great. And I
Yeah.
know people are loving this. What does everybody think? Really nice. Much easier to just sip than the Prisoner. The
Right.
Prisoner,
Yeah.
usually I'm going to want to have some food with it.
Yeah. It's got a little bit less octane than the Prisoner.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like you said, Chrissy, right, it's based on the appellation, and there's a lot of just really bright red fruits. It's really approachable. It's really vibrant. It's fresh, and it's drinking so well. It's just right out of the bottle. I mean, I just pour it in, pour the glass out, and a lot of times wines need to open up. I mean, this just comes out beautifully and drinks so well.
Cool.
So when you put this together, do you start with a formula? Recipe?
Going into harvest, we have a kind of a proposed composition of grapes that we're looking at. And so, but it's kind of interesting because it's not as simple as, okay, this vineyard's going to go into Unshackled, this vineyard's going to go into Saldo, this vineyard's going to go into the Prisoner. It's really, when we look at the grapes all up at the end of harvest, what fits each blend and makes the appellation and cost, of course, the best. So just because something is, destined for Unshackled at the beginning of harvest doesn't mean that that's where it's going to end up.
Okay.
So
So you have a framework in mind, and then you're then, I guess,
Yeah,
putting
and
together
like
the
the
formula
Prisoner,
based on what comes in.
yeah, and like Prisoner and Unshackled, their compositions will change year to year, really depending on the harvest that we have, the amount of fruit we're able to get, and how the lots contribute to the overall blend. Especially for the Prisoner, it's made itself popular, and
Sure.
what we're not out to do is to change the style of it. So it's really like if it takes more cab to make it style wise like Prisoner, or more Zin, or whatever it is that year, that kind of puts it in the style framework.
Right, so you're
So that's
focusing
what
on
it
that
is.
style, and you're going to get there however you have to do it.
Right. Well, within reason, because we're not throwing a bunch of things we don't need to at it. That's one thing we're not out to do.
Right. Well, you're working with grapes, and you're working with some really, really good growers. I mean, that was the other thing that I wanted to touch on. Was I know you're working with these small growers who have a lot of old vines and have been working with you for years on these wines. That's got to be something that's it's really good. That's kind of your foundation, right?
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely a grower-based brand. They, you know, we contribute to each other's success, and I feel like we're each other's livelihood. You know, in Napa Valley, it's a very, you know, cab centric. It's become very cab centric.
Right.
Although, you know, Zen, Syrah, Petite
Yeah, Zen
Syrah,
has
Sandra.
disappearing from the valley on a regular basis, right? It's just kind of going away.
Yeah, you know, it had been that way. You know, and to meet the needs of the prisoner, we've been seeking out planting contracts, and we've been quite successful because we know that the brand is going to grow a bit, but we don't want it to be that, you know, totally mass-produced wine, right?
Right.
Growers are, you know, 90+% of how we make our wines, and it's, you know, multi-generational, you know, farmers in Napa Valley with varying, you know, levels of education, but they know their land. And I think we've been really fortunate to stick with, you know, some of our growers as long as we have. It's, you know, we've kind of seen each other grow up, if you will.
Yeah. So these are great vineyards you're working with. The Corte Ranch is
Black Cordy and Pilgrim and Lodi.
right.
I mean, it's
Um,
Rogers and Napa Valley.
York Creek and Spring Mountain. I mean, that's, you know, that goes back to Ridge Vineyards way back in the day, and producing outstanding Petite Syrahs from there for many decades, right?
Yeah, and they it's been great because we've actually been able to acquire, you know, some more tons over the past year or two, which is awesome because you know, as we have our tasting room here, and it's always good to be able to move different types of products in and out of the visitor center and the wine club. And so the York Creek, you know, some new acquisitions of Petite Syrah, you know, I foresee that, you know, making an appearance as a tasting room only wine. So it's nice to work with the small growers with the small blocks and make, you know, I know Prisoner is not huge on vineyard designates, but it's, you know, I think that it's a chance to highlight some of the growers that we have.
Well, it's mysterious, right?
Yeah.
You got a little of this, a little of that, and it's all from marvelous places and great growers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the question that I have to ask, of course, you know, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, Petite Syrah, all big grapes. How do you manage to tame all those tannins?
So the composition of the wines, when we look at our blending, we're looking at it kind of like in two pieces. So I spoke earlier that there's the Zin Syrah, Petite Syrah component,
Right.
and then there's the Bordeaux Cab and Merlot component.
Okay.
And so when we have the Zin Syrah, Petite Syrah, we pick those, you know, pretty ripe, and it's based on style to get kind of the porty characteristics.
So you're letting them hang longer on the vine.
Yeah, we try to let everything hang.
More sugar.
But a lot of times, like with our cabs, you know, the first rain kind of decides when we pick it.
Sure.
But so the Zin and Syrah end up with a lot of the softer tannins and also lower acidity, where the Bordeaux's kind of bring up the back end and provide, you know, some of the tannin and the acidity to the blend. Okay. So each variety definitely has its place, and I kind of see it as like a graph. So if you have a graph of all of the varieties, it's like maybe the Zin curve looks like this, and then the Petite Syrah looks like this, and the Cab looks like this, and you know, and they overlay each other so that it's just one kind of smooth.
So it all fills in.
It all fills in, and what one doesn't have, the other one does.
So are there particular techniques you do in the winery that manages to keep those tannins tamed?
So one of the, I mean, pretty much the technique that we have in the winery to to tame tannins. Really, it just has to do with the residence time in the tank. So we make sure that, as the wines are going through fermentation, that as they get over halfway, that we're tasting them on a daily basis to determine where the tannins are coming out. And if we see that the tannins are starting to get kind of hard or rough, then we'll put it on the pressing schedule so we can get it off the skins.
Okay.
We don't do any sort of like extended maceration.
Right. So you're limiting
that's not our
contact.
That's not our deal.
Right.
So
you limit the skin contact.
I would say that's probably the best way that we control is just the time that the skins and the juice are together.
So does a pre-fermentation cold soak help with that?
We don't do, we might get a couple days on a cold soak just to be able to get the analysis and make some initial additions. But it's really not, we're not super interested. We get enough color and tannin up front.
Okay.
Chrissy, just for the newcomers to wine, can you guys explain, you or Josh, what a cold soak is?
Yes, sure. Well, a lot of times, and this happens, I guess, more with Pinot Noir. Chrissy, you might be able to correct me on this.
Pinot we would do, an extended 4 or 5 day cold soak.
You basically put your grapes in the tank, and you crush them, and you have your grapes, your must in the tank, but you don't let the fermentation happen by cooling it down so that the fermentation won't start, and you just let it soak in a cold state for a few days, and that extracts a lot of the color and some of the softer tannins, I understand.
Yeah, it's basically so you're not extracting phenolics, with the presence of alcohol, which becomes like your solvent, and you're not, especially for like Pinot, when it's harvested, some of the seeds can be kind of greenish brown. So when you have those green, it's the harder tannins that we're trying to avoid.
All right.
Josh, can I just a couple, someone's got a really great question here about the label, but we're on tannins, and I've been dying to ask you this, Chrissy. So you're talking about cold soak, and you're talking about, when to pull it off, when to, blend. How much is science? How much is art? How much is experience? What levels are you really testing? And how much are you guys just sitting in there and kind of tasting every day? And yep, it's time. Let's go. Mix this, move this. Where's that line? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say that for us, determining when it's time to pull the grapes off the skins, it's basically tasting. Right. We're not testing for any specific tannins to give us the go ahead. I know some people do that, and there's the science behind that. We just don't. We don't
let your palate tell you. Yeah. That's good. So that's the experience. You let your palate tell you.
Yeah, and it's I've kind of gone like an interesting route. When I grew up in the wine industry, I was in the lab. And so things were very, decisions were based on very technical, on the analysis.
Right. I know that's your background. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when I moved out of that first job and started working, with custom crush clients and stuff, I started to learn how to match up what you're seeing analysis wise with what you're tasting. And now kind of to a point where it's like you feel like you're tasting X, and okay, let's run the analysis. It's almost afterward, So it's
like a confirmation almost on what you're tasting to make sure that you're, yeah.
And I understand that, I'm sorry.
Guys, I just wanted to, because someone's got a really good question too, and they're flying in, and that's why I want to jump in. Someone had a question about the labels, because the labels for all the wines, but
before we go to labels, I just want to say, and I understand that a lot of growers will do the same thing with the grapes and decide when to pick by actually picking grape and tasting it. Instead of
It's-
like looking at the bricks and, you know, doing all the analysis, they'll just taste the grape and say, okay, it's ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's similar.
Okay. Just wanted to get that in.
Yeah. So
So,
someone
yeah.
had a question about the unshackled label. You know, the prisoners and the soldados are all very, you know, almost artistic in the imagery, but the unshackled is like this lock, right? This trying to find the combo. And someone had a good question. What's that all about? So, any insight on that one?
One of the marvelous things about the wines are the labels.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they're, we
Totally.
all drink what's in the bottle, but certainly the package is the first thing that we see, right? And
Amazing.
these labels really jump off the shelf at you.
Yeah, I think the best one is the rosé, just in the way it offsets the color on the label.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sure.
and then I think for the cab and the red blend, there's supposed to be two different colors for the next vintage.
This is a combination lock, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's like an old school
your prisoner,
combo lock.
he's all locked up, and then
Yeah.
he got the combination, and he's unshackled.
Yeah, there you go. That's exactly how it happened.
That's, which brings me back to the prisoner. I haven't tasted this yet, but I think we
Yeah.
need to focus on this a little bit. You know what? Let's ask. I got to ask you. 2018, I understand, was a really great vintage.
2019, that was
Oh, no, 2018.
yeah, last year.
Oh no, 2018 is what we got.
Oh yeah, that's 2018. Yeah, I actually have this cute little bottle right here, which is 2019, just
Oh yeah,
bottled.
that's nice.
Um,
Yeah, we sell a lot of magnums actually. A lot of prisoner
Yeah.
parties going on. But so you must have had a lot of good fruit available to you for this wine.
yeah, we had a pretty successful, harvest 18 and 19 and supply wise. So it was nice to make a bit more for everybody. But yeah, 18 was
For
I know,
wines.
it's so funny. It's like I have to go back and like think of 18 vintage. What was that?
It was so long ago.
God, because it almost feels like with this harvest, I feel like it's been going on forever already.
Doesn't it feel like that every year though?
It's worse this year.
All right, so this year's
It's
worse.
been just so weird. I think with COVID and heat and all that kind of stuff, it's just been,
So can you talk about how this 2018 compares to maybe the 2019 that you were just talking about?
I would say the 2018 and the 2019 are exactly the same because that's what we strive for style-wise.
Okay, yeah.
No, I would say that the 2019, 2018 was pretty good out the gate. Whereas like 2017 was a little bit rough, tannin-wise, and needed a little bit of time. I would say 18 and 19 are pretty similar in the fact that their tannins and their approachability, of which the prisoner is known for, is pretty smooth out the gate. Similar proportions of Zin, Syrah, Petit Syrah,
And Charbonneau.
Charbonneau in there, and then Cab and Merlot. So, I would say, they're pretty similar from that.
Yeah.
From that.
Well, the tannins on this are beautifully polished. I mean, the wine's got a big backbone and it's got a real dense core, but the tannins are they feel so supple on your palate.
Hey,
So-
hey, Chris, you have a question.
Who's growing Charbonneau now?
We've got a couple different sources up in Calistoga.
Really?
Yeah.
Up in the warm area, the hot area.
warm
perhaps,
area.
Right?
Yeah,
So that's a real late ripener.
it is.
Are those big
Yeah.
berries, small berries?
I would say they're probably like Syrah, but more round, not oval,
Okay.
larger than Cab, maybe smaller than Malbec.
So they bring like a fruity character to the wine, right?
It's really a weird kind of grape. It's hard to. I used to work with a grape at Wild Horse called Blanc Frankish, and
Sure. We
it
see
was
that
one.
back east here.
Oh yeah, yeah, Lemberger.
Yeah, Limburger.
And there was always kind of difficulty in trying to figure out when to pick it, because it was kind of nondescript. And so, we've kind of worked with it over the last couple of years. It's definitely a grape that you don't want to harvest too soon. It's got a pretty big tannin structure. It's got really good color. And so I think leaving it in the heat a bit helps to soften some of those tannins
Right.
for us, especially, the Charbonneau, part of it is a standalone wine in our visitor center. And so it gets about 15 months of barrel age, and then it'll get up to a year in the bottle after that. And then
All right.
it's
So
really
you really got to tame it.
Yeah.
So does it bring a pepperiness like Blanc Frankish does?
Yeah, it's kind of a spicy, darker fruit,
Mhm.
Type of grape. But I feel like the tannin structure is a bit bigger in a warmer climate than Blanc Frankish. Blanc Frankish tends to soften up quite a bit. I used to call it the gateway red because it was licorice and soft, and just, if somebody wasn't sure what to have, you just give them the gateway red of Blanc Frankish.
Right, and that would work.
Charbonneau, I don't know that it's a gateway, It's a bit more serious.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing a nice similarity between these wines, along with a really big difference.
Yeah, biggest difference is just the red fruit and the dark fruit, even though
Yeah.
there's similar varieties in there, but I going back to the Grenache and the Malbec just kind of picks up the back end of the fruit for the Unshackled blend.
I detect a little more oak also in the Prisoner.
They're fairly similar percentage-wise. But they have different types of barrels in them. So that's the main difference.
Newer barrels or more toasted?
Yeah, so they're both roughly 30% new oak, varying amounts of French and American. And then the balance is neutral. But the vendors are different. The people that we buy them from, different.
That's what I was going to ask, Chrissy. Just like grape growers and spies, do you have specific coopers and barrel producers that you prefer for the different wines?
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's Prisoner has always been kind of smoky, toasty espresso kind of barrel. And so Unshackled is a bit different, giving a little bit more sweeter oak, vanilla, caramel.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that in Prisoner too. There, for sure, but just a kind of a little bit brighter focus on the Unshackled.
I see a question about how long can the wines age?
Yeah, so when I first started this job in 2016, we did vertical tasting of the Prisoner, which went back all the way back to 2003. And I would say that those wines from early 2000s were showing really well. They did have some age on them. Tannins were softer, which is what the aging will do. And some of the fruit was a little diminished, and there was more of a porty kind of character in there. But I would say that they age longer than you think they would. They still have decent acid content, and it's to me, you know, a prisoner is almost exactly where you want to be after it's all sold out, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just kind of, it's interesting, but you know, easily.
That's one of the real ironies of wine, unfortunately. Just
Yeah.
when you wanted it, oh no, it's all gone.
Yeah, right. You know, and I'm glad we can say that.
Yeah, it's great. But you know that these wines they show such beautiful balance. I mean, that's to me that's the you know the hallmark of a wine that's going to age. You know, it's got the intensity of fruit, it's got the tannins for the backbone, but everything's so nicely imbalanced.
Right.
So you can expect it to really just age beautifully.
Hey, Josh, can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. I'm sorry. I wasn't for sure if my microphone was working. I had a question for Chrissy.
Sure.
First, I did want to thank Josh, Chrissy, because I discovered the Unshackle through Josh. Josh is my go-to. It's a pleasure to hear his voice finally.
Well, thank you.
Whenever I pick up a wine, you're part of my my discovery. So always YouTube, you've done a few on it, and that's how I discovered.
Gotta get a little closer to the mic there, Brett.
Okay, thanks, Marshall. Is that a little
You
better?
got it. Yep. Get a little closer, yeah.
Thank you. But yeah, so Josh is my go-to. So Christy, I did have a question. You guys are talking about vintages, and one of the things I was always curious about, you know, you've always heard that, you know, 2018 was great for Napa, you know, for a particular winery, then everyone in Napa, you know, benefited, you know, from, those conditions.
Rick, can you speak up a bit? It's still little hard to hear.
Is that any better?
It was better before.
Yeah, whatever you're doing when you first started talking, we could hear you loud and clear there, Brick, and then you faded off.
I'll try it a little later. I won't.
Oh, it's good now.
No, that's good. You get closer, yeah.
Okay, I'm better. All right. Well, let's see how this goes. Let me just get my question in. So, no, you guys are talking about vintages, and I was always told, and what I've learned is that if, you know, let's say Prisoner out of Napa, the 2018 was a very good vintage, then, you know, neighboring estate wineries in that AVA probably had a great vintage as well, because you all kind of benefited from the same growing conditions, weather, you know, climate, et cetera, et cetera. So have you ever seen where you had a great, you know, vintage from Napa, but, you know, where you were sourcing these grapes for like the Unshackled that were that weren't from Napa? Have there ever been like a huge variation of, you know, characteristics of the wine where you can say that, this vintage wasn't so good, even though it was the 18 was great for the Prisoner, but the 18 for the Unshackled didn't do so well, just based off of, you know, weather conditions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Vintage is very tricky.
it's just over the years, from what I've remembered, is that grapes coming from the Central Coast, I don't remember nearly as much variation from vintage to vintage as in Napa Valley, or having the difficulties with disease pressure, whether it's mildew or botrytis or, you know, those types of things. You know, there was some on the Central Coast. I remember there was one particular vineyard early on in my career that always just rotted to hell. And then the company then sold the vineyard, so it just wasn't a good site. But the biggest thing about the Central Coast that seems to happen a little bit less up here is frost. We get some frost up on the North Coast, but man, it really hits the Central Coast hard, as well as in Paso Robles area, the lack of water and the lack of rainfall, which creates, you know, salt issues for the vines. So they have their different I don't know, issues, I guess. Each region has their different issues.
Sure.
Different variables, right, to factor in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what microclimates are all about, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question. Great question.
Yeah, good question.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Thanks.
And
You're welcome.
We have a question about how many bottles of Unshackled are produced each year, or maybe cases is the better way to answer
Well, this is
that one.
the first year, right? Is there? It's not another
Yeah,
year yet.
That's the first year.
All right.
So it's going to be changing as demand changes, but I'll just tell you that, when I get this question about the Prisoner Red Blend, that I tell people that we make enough to keep everyone happy.
All
So
right.
take that as you want.
Answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Josh, I got
But how many magnums?
Yeah,
No,
right.
we have not made any magnums of
Oh,
Shackles.
all right. Well, we're gonna have to change that.
Yeah.
Is
The,
Daniel.
Bianca and the COVID made me drink. Yeah, my liver is suffering. Yep.
Yeah. All of us.
Daniel, have a question?
Yeah, Dan and Dave here, Josh and
How you doing?
we're doing good.
Oh, buddy.
We got both the wines. Awesome. I love them.
Great.
The Prisoner, I like it way more. It's well. Anyways, my question is, for the smoke in the valley, we're between Lake County and the Sierra Nevadas.
Mm.
We've been hit by the fires in the North Valley for the last month now, and then took a trip over to Bridgeport on the coast, and thought I was going to get away from the smoke, but it's all the way over into Mendocino County because the Mendocino Forest is on fire. So my question, Cindy, is how is smoke going to affect the grapes and the wine?
This is one of those, before we were going to do this call, it was like, well, do you want to not answer any questions about the fires? And it's like, well, it's one of those things that it's inevitable. The question's going to come up, and there's going to be some impact on the wines, as we saw in 2017. We learned a lot from that year. This, by far is more widespread. But we're really, we're trying to learn how the smoke taint is affecting just the different varieties and stuff like that. So we're working through a bunch of experiments to see how we can, work with, any wine that is smoke tainted. But that being said, if a wine is too detrimental, to put in the bottle, rest assured we're not, you're not going to get an ashtray to drink. So,
Right.
it's,
Remains to be seen,
I'll just
right?
say, I can't say a whole lot because we're not really into the thick of harvest at this point. We know there's exposure. We know that wine will be affected. Volumes may be affected. We'll just kind of see where we end up after harvest, and then, try to put everything together. But, be sure that we're going to provide you the best wine that we can from this vintage.
Right. So it really remains to be seen what the effects will be. And, probably ultimately what will happen is, the 2020 vintage will be a very, very tiny vintage, and the wines will be very rare, and you'll all want them. Everybody be fighting over them.
It's definitely causing businesses to think of, how to address, shortage issues. How big is the blend going to be? Things like that. So, the thing is too, is that we're all in the same boat. Whereas, in 2017, it was, Napa Valley, and, parts of Sonoma got hit really hard.
Right.
But this is bigger than that. It's going to be quite an impact across the state.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a number of people who are fans of the whole line, and some have the Soldo, some have the Unshackled Cab, and they just kind of want to know more about cellaring. Again, the saldo and the unshackled cab, should those be cellared, or can they be drunk right away?
You know, so I tell people that Prisoner Wine Company wines are wines for the impatient. They are not really meant to be cellared. They can be, but you know, our goal is, you know, to basically make the wine enjoyable out the gate. So when you buy it off the shelf, drink it that night, you know, or buy 4 cases and, you know, stock up and see how, you know, then you can do your own little experiment, you know, on how you think it ages. But, you know, it's meant to be consumed sooner rather than later. You know, so I wouldn't worry so much about the proper cellar time, because they're meant to have right away, instant gratification.
Yeah, and for me, to be honest, the first time I'm tasting them next to each other, and I expected a Brunello and Rosso di Montalcino, you know, kind of dynamic, right? Drink the unshackled while you're waiting for the prisoner to age, but
yeah.
but the prisoner's drinking beautifully right now. It'll age, right? And it'll, you know, gain some of those tertiaries and secondaries, but they're, like you said, Chrissy, I mean, these are wines that come out really enjoyable right now. And they are made in that way. They open up so quickly in the glass, and, you know, well done with it. I was surprised. I was anticipating, you know, needing to decant and open up the prisoner. It's here and ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me echo that. Well done, Chrissy.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Good job.
Yeah, I'll echo that as for the second. Chrissy, I think I saw one of your videos when you were talking about the prisoner, and that was one of the notes you gave me clarity on, that they were made to be drank, you know, right out of the bottle. And I have had some vintages that I've let age for a couple of years, but you know, I probably have shared with friends at least a case of the unshackled, and maybe decanted no more than 30 minutes. And you're absolutely right. I mean, they are ready to go right out of the bottle, and they're magnificent. And, you know, Josh used the word that I used to explain so well. It's the suppleness on the tannin, you know, the unshackled, where, you know, some of the bigger tannins, even on the prisoner, I've had to, you know, wait a little bit more. But the unshackled, I mean, it is supple, and they're just like, and silky. Very silky. Well done.
Absolutely. Yeah, Marshall and I did an experiment with the eye sommelier. We took the prisoner and we ran it through the eye sommelier for what? How many seconds?
I think it was 60 seconds, which was like an hour of decanting.
Right, and so I mean, it just really hit its peak. It was ideal. It was perfect. So what's everybody eating with these big wines? What's that?
What is eye sommelier?
Oh, it's a very, very fabulous wine breathing device that lets oxygen bubble through the wine and softens up the tannins, brings out the fruit.
I'll put it in the link for you guys.
Cool.
But what's everybody going to be enjoying with these wines?
Goat and sheep cheeses and dark chocolate.
Oh, dark chocolate.
I like that, Erica. I like it.
Yeah, prisoner is pretty big on the chocolate and dessert pairing, as long as it's not
too
the
sweet.
Sweetness has to be pretty dialed in.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, kind of whatever you want. I'm not a big food and wine pairer. I'll drink wine without anything. But the thing is that the types of wines that I drink are not super, you know, big to begin with. So I don't need a big steak to tame the wine.
But this would go very well with a big steak, don't you think?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Really breakable.
We've got everything from octopus to steak tips to Marcona almonds in the chat. So people are mixing with all kinds of meals.
So I'm going to give everybody
That'd be good.
my tip that I shared with the winemaker at Nickel and Nickel, and that's the take a wonderful piece of Parmesan or, I don't know, your favorite sort of semi-hard cheese and roll it in porcini mushroom powder. It's so perfect with a big red wine like this. It's an amazing combination. The umami just blows up on your palate.
I got one, Josh. Dan and Dave here, Josh. You got me?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember last time I was talking about how we paired it with a nice big hamburger for the $6 burger, but this, we upgraded, and I went to Save Mart. They had this real good deal on some porterhouse steaks.
Okay.
And after I drank both of these wines with the porterhouse steak, and they both stood up, and it was really good.
Awesome.
Well, there you go. All right.
Yeah, I see a lot, a couple barbecue coming through, braised short ribs. Yeah. I just watch out for the tentacles on the octopus. It might,
When I was
that's a tricky one.
at first taste of the Unshackled, that's the first thing that was on my mind, Chrissy, was like that nice braised short rib, like that. Unshackled is like made for barbecue, right? Nice saucy off the grill, smoked.
Yeah, somebody's got chocolate chip pancakes there for the kids. Gotcha.
They'll be all right.
Go.
So we're actually pairing ours with a lamb and beef meatloaf tonight.
Stuffed with broccoli.
Stuffed with broccoli.
And topped with
Oh,
mozzarella.
cool.
Oh, well, you got
those greens in.
health food in. That sounds ideal.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's excellent.
I gotta be honest. Can I say something?
Yeah.
Okay. I like having something a little spicy, something with a little heat with the prisoner, because I feel like it really brings out the pepperiness of the Zin, and
Sure.
Especially after you've kind of eaten your meal and you're sitting there a little full, and really just letting it kind of run over your tongue and feeling all the different flavors as it goes over the palate. I just love that
Sounds
sensation.
perfect. Yeah, those black pepper notes in here that maybe come from the Charbonneau. We're not sure.
Yeah, or just the Zin.
Or the
Zin.
Syrah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good pairing.
Well, we've just got 2 minutes left for any more remaining questions. Thank you so much, Chrissy, for joining us. 2 minutes left.
If everyone doesn't mind, I have one that I think is interesting, Chrissy. So I'm sure Prisoner is obviously your favorite wine, your Prisoner wines. But when you're not drinking Prisoner, when you're not drinking your wines, what do you tend to find yourself sipping on outside of the Prisoner world?
Seagram 7 and 7 Up.
There you go.
What are you pairing that with?
Life.
COVID.
I know. It's busy times.
But we like Sagacio, Argentinian Malbec.
Yeah.
Different types of Sauvignon Blanc.
So you left all those Central Coast Pinots behind, huh?
Yeah, it's really different now. I need to buy me some Wild Horse and get reacquainted.
Yeah. It's a whole different experience, right?
It's really different. Yeah, it's almost like I need like a kind of bigger style Russian River Pinot.
Right.
That's how my palate's changed.
Bell Gloss or something.
Yeah.
Too big, man.
So Chrissy, Marshall pushed me to ask this question. I hope that I don't get kicked off the channel for it, but I have to ask. Have you tasted The Prisoner and then maybe tasted the 8 Years in the Desert side by side?
Oh. I've never had 8 Years in the Desert.
Okay, all right. Thanks. Great answer, and we'll move along.
On your next blind tasting. Next blind tasting.
Yeah.
Anyway, this has been great. Chrissy, really, thank you so much for joining us. You've been wonderful. You've given us lots of great insights and information and really helped us to understand and enjoy these wines so much more.
Yeah.
And all the best with the harvest and everything that's going on out there. We're looking forward to lots more great things from you guys.
Thank you so much, Josh. And the Wine Express.
Any
Really appreciate the
idea when we'll be
opportunity.
able to come see you?
That for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
our tasting room has been, it's mostly open. It's closed a couple times because of smoke, but you know, we're still seating people and doing tastings outside at this point, and then hopefully some inside coming up soon. As California's being good, we're being good.
Good. That's great.
Woohoo!
And
Good to
Those
know.
were all the great
Like
questions,
setting up the kids
everyone.
back to school.
Can you upload the link to your business? So if we want to come and visit, that we can we get that information?
yeah, Erica, yes, we'll put it in the chat. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The prisoner website?
Yeah, tasting room and everything. Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Marco's got it.
I did it already.
We hope to see you soon and stay safe.
Yes.
All right.
Cheers, Chrissy. Thank you, Chrissy. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
you.
Have a good
Take care,
night,
guys. Take care,
everyone.
everybody.
Thank you, Josh.
Oh,
Thank
you're
you
welcome.
all.
Thanks for joining. Thanks everybody for joining
Thank you,
us.
guys.
Guys,
Thank you,
keep the video
We really
coming, Josh.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Nice to see everybody. It's great.
I'm
Thank you,
good.
guys.
Prisoner. The prisoner's the
Thank
bomb.
you.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
It is.
always the hit of the party because I bring it.
So you're the one buying all the magnums, huh?
Josh, please share the link on the what was it? The Psalm, the app.
Oh, the ISOM. Yeah.
Yeah.
Marshall's going to do that.
Okay, thank you. And,
Yep. That's a great thing.
thank you. Looking forward to it. And again, continue the videos. I learned so much from your videos, and you just encouraged me to go deeper in my knowledge of wine. And I appreciate you so much.
Well, that's great to hear. Thanks so much. Thanks for
All right.
joining us.
Bye-bye.
Josh, do you keep those magnums in stock?
Oh, we do. We got them.
Okay, I do.
Shippers for them.
Okay, I do commercial banking, and in most cases, you have a prepayment penalty if you leave early. So I've always given out a bottle of Prisoner as kind of a joke, inside joke with my clients. And for years, probably going back 12 years now. And
Miracle.
I just love the wine, and everybody appreciates the joke. So
That's great.
but Magnum would be fun.
Yeah, magnums are magnums are a lot of fun. That's great.
I got a question for you, Josh.
Okay.
I know you're a fan of a good Chardonnay. When are we going to get some Chardonnay on the wine tasting? Do you know?
They
You
got
got
a
an
lot of
idea?
Chardonnays in the cup.
Oh, we've debated that. We've gone back and forth about it, and ultimately, red wine really rules. Unfortunately, it's kind of like 8 out of 10 bottles of wine that our customers want are red wines. So we've kind of hesitated to hit on a white. Maybe next time we do a tasting, we'll do a few wines and we'll squeeze a white wine in there.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe that's what we'll do.
I like a good toasty, buttery Chardonnay. That's my
Yeah,
stuff.
we tasted the Beringer Reserve a week ago with Marshall, and man, was it good. Whew.
Badger Reserve. They offer that.
Do you guys got that on your site, Baron?
Oh, we do. We've got it.
I'll take a look at that.
That one hits all the notes.
Thank you.
Is this video going to be sent back to us?
The video will be posted on YouTube, right?
We post it on YouTube, and if you're assuming you're on our email list, which I hope everyone is, you will get the recording emailed to you. Probably
Thank y'all
tomorrow.
so much. It was so enjoyable, and I really appreciate everything y'all done to soften this. pandemic thing. So thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
This is a
Appreciate
great
that.
thing.
Thanks so much. Stay
Glad to
safe,
see everyone.
please.
Bye, everyone. I'm going to end.
Bye.
Have a great night. Thank you so
Bye.
much for
Good
joining.
night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Hey, Josh, I got another question for you. Am I still on?
One more. Go ahead.
Hey, yeah,
All right.
favorite out of the two. What would you find yourself going back to tomorrow?
You're talking about these wines?
Yes.
Well, I think this is the one.
Okay.
I mean, the Unshackled is beautiful, but that's a drink tonight. This one definitely could go back tomorrow. Could cork it up, vacuum in, whatever, and next day it'll be beautiful.
Yeah, that's the one I like too. Except mine's all gone. I'm going to have to get some more.
Okay, we'll send it to you. Thanks so much.
When
Bye, everyone.
2020, I'm going to be, or 2020, the way they do the prisoner wines, they said it's going to be ready in a year and a half. So I'll be looking for it in 2022 for this year, because I think it's going to be like you said, everybody's going to be fighting over it.
That's right, because they'll be very limited,
Yeah, for sure.
highly allocated.
Mhm. Thank you.
All
Have
right,
a good
take
night,
care.
guys. I'm going to end the meeting. Bye. Thank you for joining.